came out in this heat, the only thing I could think of for the welcome sign was a firecracker, because it is as hot as one. If you ran errands this weekend and you got out, you know it. So we're celebrating the 4th. We're celebrating being here with Unity, and we're glad you're here with us on Zoom, and we're glad you're here in the community room. And so, and I've been wearing a few hats this morning, so yeah. Well, bam, it's firecracker time. But it's not only the weather dome that keeps us heated. There's many divisive issues on this 247th, near 247th birthday of our nation. And let's see if you're gonna work today. Nope, wait a minute, wrong way. So, but you know, my son was always telling me that it's the worst of times. And we know that's really not true. You can go back and anytime, but let's look at old Abe Lincoln. On his first inaugural, 7 states had seceded from the Union, and I believe some of the battles were beginning. And in his inauguration, the crowd began arriving, and the cavalry was patrolling all of the major intersections, and there were Army sharpshooters stationed on tops of buildings along Pennsylvania Avenue to guard against Confederate sympathizers that were still in the Capitol. Wow. I mean, we've seen that kind of recently, haven't we? Can you believe it? Now, he gave, this is one of his first memorable speeches, and at the end of it, in his final sentence, he said, "The mystic chords of memory stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every heart and hearthstone all over this broad land will yet swell the chorus of the Union. When again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature." Now that very saying, the better angels of our nature, that inspired J.D. Martin and Jan Garrett to write this beautiful song.
Hi, I'm Jan Garrett.
I'm J.D. Martin.
And we're going to sing a song for you called Better Angels. Seeing the world through the eyes of a higher vision, freely feeling the love that's breathing us on, openly singing the song that holds us together, and willingly lending a hand to tear down the walls, calling our better angels together, calling our better angels as we go. Better angels, better angels, better angels, calling on our better angels. Who brings the breeze at dawn to the mountain meadows? And how do the wild grasses know how to grow? The essential invisible heart of all creation, living in inside of us now, singing us home. Yeah. Calling our better angels together. Calling our better angels as we go. Better angels, better angels, better angels, calling on our better angels, the better angels of our nature, the companions of our soul, the ones we can count on to guide us wherever we go. Though the dangers may be daunting, we know that we're not alone. We're lifted up, taking the high road home. Better angels, better angels, better angels, calling on our better angels, better angels, better angels, better angels, calling on our better angels.
I love the words, seeing the world through the eyes of a higher vision. Really feeling the love that's breathing us all. The love that's breathing us all. Openly singing the song that holds us together. Willingly lending a hand to tear down the walls. Calling our better angels together. Did you notice how Jan hesitated? Calling our better angels together. I love that. Now at Unity, the union that swells that Abe Lincoln talked about, that begins with the heart and mind. That's our first union. And it extends to union in relationships with family and friends and community, and the union with the Christ and all that is, the oneness. And to me, our better angels are just our higher consciousness. It's nothing out there. It's we already have that, and we can just call on that. So let's say our opening statement together at this one power. Together, there is only one presence and one power active in my life and the universe. God, the good, the omnipotent. Yes. So that's calling on better angels. Now for the daily word today, I'm going to give you two. This was the daily word, literally, in the wonderful little magazine that Unity produces. And it's guidance. I seek, trust, and follow my inner guidance. This is like the better angels. And again, it's in our consciousness when we seek to raise it. Seeking inner guidance means tuning out my senses and the opinions of others while turning inward. Then with my open heart and quiet mind, I can better feel the nudge of my intuition, my inner knower, my better angel. I have learned to listen and follow it. I hear the still small voice within, and as I do, I strengthen my ability to listen even more. Now, of course, I always love on the 4th of July, you know what the word is. It's freedom. So be sure to look it up on Tuesday. But living as the divine being I am is the sweetest freedom. Today I celebrate my spiritual freedom. My spiritual self is as infinite as the sky. Like an eagle, I soar through the expanse of consciousness. I have the power to change my thinking, release limitations, and rise above the clouds of circumstance. I am gloriously free. So we need to remember that, as even if what we're facing in our own lives or in this country or in this world, in consciousness, we can claim this. Let's take that to prayer. We do affirmative prayer here at Unity. We open, God is, I am, I know and I can, and I appreciate. With every breath, taking a deep breath to relax and open, I drop deep into the center of my being. I open heart and mind and listen to the still small voice, my inner guidance, my better angel. God is life, love, and wisdom. And on this holiday weekend, I focus on my community and my country, centered in divine love and divine wisdom. I breathe out thoughts of division and separateness. I'm inspired to think in ways that align my values with my humanity, with my divinity. I seek a higher vision for our country. I use my power of imagination to vibrate with higher consciousness, to bring life to familiar but beautiful words. Oh, let's skip the page. Let me bring, well, it's the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We don't have to earn these rights, and in consciousness they cannot be taken away from us. In our humanness, we have used government to form a more perfect union. But even with the best intentions, we have created troubled waters. So let us use our divine nature. Let us align in that. Our divine imagination to see a more perfect union, to see ways to align our values and create continuous flow of all the effective possibilities we have not yet tried. Let us focus on the truth that can unite us all. May we wade into the troubled water, and each of us see the better angels in every one of us. We have it in our higher consciousness. We all can be that. And as our prayer closes, I give thanks for the unity of spirit, for this community, for this time together to remember all of our blessings in this great nation. Let us celebrate, and let us also look higher. We are inspired, and so it is. have a song for us this morning, another song. And I was thinking about the troubled waters and what we're about to do this morning, which is to begin our series on the 5 principles. Now, it was kind of a challenge to think about the 5 principles and the 4th of July at the same time. But I did my best. And in bringing in that quote from Abe Lincoln about the better angels, that's one way. And then I was beginning to think of the troubled waters. And I happened to be watching Harriet last night, about Harriet Tubman, but that wasn't the reason I chose this song, because I kept thinking we're going to dive deep into these principles, but let's just today wade in. So here is the song that I thought of, and it's really kind of fun. Wait, let's see, there we go. So the troubled waters could mean a lot of things. Obviously, in the times of when we were trying to end slavery, Harriet Tubman, she literally waded into the water to bring the people, on the railroad to freedom. And but then I think that we trouble our own waters. We've talked a lot about being in the flow, and being in the flow, well, you have ups and downs that maybe you can't control. But then what do we create with troubled waters too? It works both ways. And then it says God is going to trouble the water. And you may be uncomfortable when that happens, but it's ultimately maybe what makes you a better person. You want the confidence to be able to wade through the muddy and uncalm waters. Too often we see our journey as a process and it gets tough, and we pause in fear to go in another direction. But if we just follow that flow, and we really can get to the other side. And the other thing this spiritual brings up to me is, I said the words of the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal. Well, we're still struggling with that a little bit in this country. And I just really hope that we can, just find other ways that we haven't thought of. Because what we're doing isn't always working. Sometimes it covers up. So, now, in fact, the Constitution is supposed to be a framework for our government, right? But then people interpret it in different ways, and different things happen. Well, we're going to go into the 5 principles. Now, here's where I'm making my segue, because it's about a framework. It's about a framework. Now, frameworks have been important to me in my life. I'm sure you all have used them. So don't do this one. So we're going to wade in. The series is dive deep into the 5 principles, and today I hope to just wade in to what is looking at the framework in general, and we're going to do principle 1. Now, a framework is a simple and elegant organization of the essentials, and I have used frameworks in my life, and they're very useful, but of course they can be abused like anything. But here's something that I did. When I taught in math education, I taught my teachers, and I did it all the time. It's called a LISA. Now, often we use mnemonic devices for frameworks. They're very simple. But what it means is launch, explore, summarize, assess, and apply. That's how I wanted my student teachers to organize their lessons and how I organize lessons, because you wanted to engage. Listen, this was about mathematics, but I taught it a little bit differently because I believe that mathematics is about problem solving. So I engaged them with a concrete example. Then we explored the math, and then we might practice and summarize, and then we applied it and actually solved the problem. And my student teachers were always saying, "So Dr. McGee, you want a LISA for that, don't you?" And I see that we knew exactly what we were talking about. It communicates things very quickly, and it's just simple. Another one I've used in my life is the NVC model. And again, that has a mnemonic device. Offner, observe, talk about feelings, needs, and requests. and I'm not going to go into NBC today, but it kind of relates to my Launch, Explore, Summarize, because you launch by talking about something that's happened in your life that's kind of alive in you, and then you explore the feelings and you dig deeper and you summarize and say, well, underneath these feelings are the needs, and then you apply what you've learned by making a request that makes your life more wonderful. So you can see how in your lifetime you can get these little frameworks and models, and they can integrate and all. Now, does Unity have one? Well, yes, we do. So, of course, our framework are the 5 principles. But now, 1889 was when the Fillmores founded Unity, and they began exploring metaphysics. They didn't just sit down and write a framework. Frameworks often don't happen in the beginning. They kind of emerge as you go along, because you start seeing the principles that are in action. And they shared their work through prayer and publications, and eventually it really became a big movement. And a century after that founding, in 1989, Connie Fillmore Bazzi, an ordained Unity minister, and then she was president of the School of Christianity, she was asked to summarize Unity's teachings in an article for the Daily Word magazine. That's where this came from. And this article was later incorporated into a book titled The Keys to the Kingdom, 5 Fundamentals of Truth. And that was published in 1990. And it surprised me. I learned that some time ago, but it really surprised me, because I just thought, oh, this was handed down like, the 10 Commandments, the 5 principles, but it's really not that way. Now, it has been said that Unity is shallow enough for a child to wade in, but too deep to ever touch the bottom. And that was attributed to a man named Marcus, but actually it goes back to someone in the Greek philosophers said it, so it's really an ancient saying. I like that, though. It's shallow enough to enter, but too deep to ever touch the bottom. And that's really what I want us to see the 5 principles as today. Because, this is simplified. And I love the hand, and this is what Reverend Beverly uses. God is, I am, I think, I pray. And I think she says I act. But the hand that I found was, God is, I am, I think, I pray, I live these principles. And okay, there's a simple deal. Now, is there a mnemonic for this? Yes, there is. James used it, but I think many other ministers have used it. It's Oompa. And the first one is omnipotence. And then we talk about the second principle is about omnipresence. And then the law of mind action, or manifestation, what we think about, we create in consciousness. And then, of course, prayer and meditation, and then action, or how I live these principles. So there's a lot of ways to remember it. And we were talking last week when Eliza was here that there are still some people that don't know them, but they're posted in the back. I know there's a version for children. We'd had in a children's room before. And of course, I've given you 3 real simple ones to look at, to remember. Now, beyond the simplicity, though, we dive into deep questions. So what is this greater presence that we sense around us? What do we think God is? How can we communicate with this presence? Who and what are we? Why do things happen in our lives the way they do? And what are we on earth to do? So those are some of the questions. This comes from Ellen Davenport, and she's got a wonderful little book, The 5 Principles, that's a real kind of a modern look. I think it was published maybe 10 years ago or so. Now, We're going to be talking about the first principle. We say it every day, every Sunday. It's our opening statement. Our opening statement. There is only one power, only one presence and power active in my life and in the universe. God, the good, the omnipotent. Only one power, and it's good. And God is. Now, in unity, it's a pretty fundamental concept that God is principle. It's not the being out there. It essentially means that God is unchangeable, immutable, and just is. And in the beginning was the Word, but was there really, can you pinpoint the beginning? It just is. It's that substance. Now, Paul Hasselbeck tells us that principle, mind, law, spirit, let's see if I got them all up there, being, cause even, the universe, all these words are synonymous with God. They're names for God, simply names for God. It's the ground of being or infinite reality. So we hear the names of God, Holy Spirit, the universe, the way, Father, Mother, Creator, Divine One, One Mind, Source, First Cause, and then Ellen adds this one, thanks to Star Wars, we now have the Force. So that's true, that's been around now. But we've named it Allah and Buddha and Christ and Kali and Shiva and Krishna and Kuan Yin. All of these are just concepts of the divine. All of these are ways of people throughout time understanding God. And I liked this poem from the Bhagavad Gita. It is all that is. By me is this entire universe pervaded. All things are in me and I in them. Know that as the mighty wind blowing everywhere rests in the sky, all created beings rest in me. I am the father, the mother, the supporter, and the grandsire of the universe. That says it all. That's the allness. And it also shows that, it's this understanding of God is not unique to unity. As you know, Charles Fillmore studied metaphysics in many religions, and he was simply looking for truth. And this is common to many religions. Now, Principle 1 maintains that we are one with God. We're not separate, not being watched, but immersed in the divine. Even the Apostle Paul told the Athenians, we live and move and have our being in God. And in oneness, God lives and moves and has expression in us. You can't separate it. But Lord knows we try to separate it. And to me, that's where the evil comes in. I also had to go to Lessons in Truth, our good classic, Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady. I was in Dallas this week and I left my paperback copy, but fortunately I had another. You can't have, you need more than one, because you as you read it, you keep underlining and underlining, and you wear out the copies. I love Emily Cady. And she said, God is not a being having qualities, but he is the good itself. Everything you can think of that is good, when in its absolute perfection, goes to make up that invisible being that we call God. God is not only the creative cause of every visible form of intelligence and life at its commencement, but with each moment throughout its existence. And of course, Emily used he, God the Father, he lives within every created thing as the life, the ever-renewing, recreating, upbuilding cause of it. He never is and never can be for a moment separated from his creations. So only we choose the separation. God is always there. God is the name we give to the unchangeable, inexorable principle as the source of all existence. Now, this is interesting. I didn't realize this until I read the last chapter of Lessons in Truth, called Unity of Spirit. But she did allow for a personal God. I thought that, when you work with Paul Hasselbeck, it's always God as principle. But Miss Emily allows for us to consider others. She said that every metaphysician either has reached or must in the future reach a place where God is cold principle alone. That's not going to suffice anymore. And that's, even that is, it's just as bad to only allow for the principle than it is to just say that God is a supreme supernatural being out there. So we need kind of an integration of that. And I don't know if you all remember this, but David Thomas brought us a book by Paul Smith, and it said, "Is your God big enough, close enough, and you enough?" It looked at the three faces of God, and we did that in 2020. It was really an interesting series. And so the three faces of God: God is beyond us and ultimately nowhere. That's the infinite face of God. God is beside us as our dearest friend, the intimate face of God. And God is also in us, being us at our deepest self, and that's the inner face of God. So we have the infinite, the intimate, and the inner. And Ken Wilber talked about God, to God, and as God. So it's about, to, and as. You could look at it that way. Those are three faces. The third, the second, and the first person. God out there, my friend God, you, and then God is me, I. Use these three perspectives for any situation, and it gives you three very different experiences. So, but the thing is, in oneness, they are all together. We can think of them. We can switch our perspective at any one time, but they are all available to us. So Jesus embraced a big God, a close God, and a you God. All three in a seamless, integrated whole. He just embodied the Christ. So you ask yourself, is your God big enough, close enough, and you enough? So think about that. Paul Smith, he has these gestures. So there's the God beyond me, in whom I live and move and have my being. It's God out there. And then God beside me, you are always with me. And finally, God being me, I am the light of the world. So these gestures, I like that. But before I do the meditation, let me just pull back to there. I did want to say a bit about this idea of the one power, and it is good. In other words, is there evil? And Ellen Davenport addresses this under Principle 1, but I know that Russ is probably going to pick up more on that next week, because I think the evil is not in God, it's in man. So, but yet man is good too, so is innately good. I'm going to let Russ talk about that next week. But if God is all that is, then there can be no other power, if you think about it. There's no devil, no Satan, no adversary doing battle for our souls or luring us to the dark side, as in the Force. If God is absolute good, then what we consider evil can't be real or permanent. And that is really where I stand. And my son gets sick of this. I say it all the time. Goodness prevails. It just really does. You really have to be patient sometimes to see the good. But goodness really does prevail. movies in, Darth Vader, he was redeemed in a way right before he died, I suppose, and Indiana Jones always wins, but even in real life, and I've experienced this enough to really believe it, there have been situations that I thought, oh, this is just going to go on forever, forget it, but it doesn't. Goodness really prevails. It takes a lot of energy to sustain these evil things, I believe. And, there's something going on in Russia right now, but there's some cracks. And so, I don't know, I stay tuned on that one. And we know how World War II, ended as well. So, goodness does prevail. And understand that it can be painful, but it stems from humans' misuse of spiritual law, not from any evil entity. War, terrorism, crime, starvation, ignorance, abuse, all of it is based on fear or arrogance or greed, if you really think about it. And then underlying it all is some kind of fear, I really, really do believe. But I do love this from Joseph Conrad, who wrote about mythology. The belief in a supernatural source of evil is not necessary because men alone are quite capable of every wickedness. Most people bestow tremendous power onto those humans we consider evil or who cause harm to others, even though we know they are acting from their own pain or fear. Would ignoring evil disarm it? Don't dismiss that idea. I would love for the news to quit talking about certain things and just seeing if we can, make things happen in a different way. All right, so in my prayer, I talked about imagination. Imagine, get that higher vision. So imagine living instead in our oneness with God. Life would still have its human difficulties, but our view of them would be changed, our perspective. Rather than battling an outer enemy, we would take charge of our lives from within. We would transcend our labels of what is good or bad and live in the flow of the universe. Nothing might change in our outer circumstance right away, but it is our interpretation and our understanding. It would take on a new meaning. And life is consciousness. If we can just start there. I just loved what Vrain told me a couple of weeks ago. Watch the news and just throw light on it. And I've even tried praying with it too. I see it, I'm seeing it, it's on the TV, but that doesn't make it permanent. That doesn't make it something that has to be. And in a way that sounds naive, but, I can't go to Ukraine right now. I can wear my little bracelet about being in the flow, but, and throwing light and just taking care of my own consciousness, starting there. So that kind of brings me back to the opening and my concerns about expressing our better angels. I hope that we can wade into troubled waters with this firm foundation of unity principles. There's the 5 principles, and then there's the spiritual laws, and I know in religious science it's really not that difficult. It's hard to do, and that's the 5th principle, which Beverly will be talking about at the end of the month, but let us at first just open ourselves up to that there's only one power, and it's good. So let's do a meditation. Okay. Let's enter into the stillness. Feel yourself relax. Become aware of your breath. Close your eyes if you wish. In that stillness, feel yourself sitting up in kind of a noble posture, Feel your standability. Align yourself with the one mind, the one presence. Feel just the allness everywhere at every point. We are in this substance. We are connected. It permeates me, you, everywhere. I feel myself as a part of this creation, connected to all of nature. I am the light in the darkness. I'm the oceans and the land, the birds and the fish, rocks and trees. I am one with every human being on the planet. We all have better angels, and in this oneness, I sense the divine order of all things. I feel the divine love that moves in me and in every molecule of the cosmos. I love God with all my heart and being. Thinking of the God beside me, I let the love of God wash over me. I feel that love flowing freely from my heart, and I bask in it. Feel that heart washing. We're in it. We give it. We receive it. We're embraced in it. Become aware of your breath. Breathing in and out. As you breathe in, let God say to you, I love you. And as you breathe out, say back to God, I love you. So take this breath in, I love you. Breathe out, I love you. This love flow in and out between us, between you and God. All of it. Knowing that a divine intelligence and love is the foundation of all that is and ever will be.